SSR here, coming to you live from my space. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the likes, the shares, the comments, the subscriptions. Now, in our last video, I spoke about how do you enhance your piece vocally for competition. And I was referring to solo voice work or solo vocal work. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about choral work. Now, choral work is a little bit tricky, so you have to know what you're doing. That's one. And if you really know what you're doing, then you should have no problem. Perhaps this video is not even for you. But if you're here, then perhaps reinforcement can work. Now we talk about choral works. We're thinking about 18 to 30 voices perhaps, and really 3 or 2 to 4 parts that you're working with. Now there are several categories of choral music that you can perhaps work with. You have what is scored, you may have what is arranged, and perhaps composition. So you have composition in solo work as well. So let's talk about scored pieces. Now if you're entering a scored piece for your choir, you have to ensure that you follow the score. Yes, you have to follow the score. What is written, if you're using that as your template, then that's what's gonna be your guide. So for example, if you're in a G minor, that means that you're singing in 2 flats. If you're doing an amended version of what is there, then it would be nice for you to inform the persons in charge or make a note that perhaps it is written in this key, but for my choir, especially if it's an adult choir it's written for and you're working with kids, then you have to adjust the key. So you have to make that notation or clear with the organizers first. That's one. The other thing is that you have to understand that you have to stick to what is written. So whatever is written, if it's 4 parts, you should be hearing those 4 parts. If it's 3 parts, you should be hearing those. So replicate as best as you possibly can. And those also include any performance direction that is given on the score. So if you're supposed to start MF, which is mezzo forte or moderately loud, that has to be there. If there's a crescendo there, if there's a ritardando, if the tempo changes, if the meter changes, all those things have to be observed, as well as the accompaniment. So that's score. So scored pieces are not so bad. You can follow because it's already there. All you have to do is teach the parts, you replicate it, present it, boom, you should be okay. In terms of arrangement now, arrangement is where it gets a little tricky. So especially if it's something that persons know, or if it's something that has been done by a solo artist and you're creating it for a choir, then that should be interesting. Once you're doing, if it's something that is known, then there would be several elements that have to be there. So for example, the melody. Usually the melodies don't change. If you're doing an arrangement, all other things can be adjusted. So for example, you can invert parts. When we talk about inverting, what I mean is that especially if you have an all girls choir, all female, and you're taking it from a SATB score, then you'd have to invert the parts because we don't have females that sing tenors and basses. So you'd have to invert those parts so they can accommodate for the tessitura of these ladies. And again, the flip side, if you have an all-male choir, and that's a mixed choir, usually the younger ones are considered to be trebles. They're not sopranos, so males are not sopranos. They are treble voices. You have those voices that don't change, they still remain trebles. So you have to cater for those voices. Alright, so that is that. Now, if you're incorporating key changes, especially if it's popular music, if it's jazz, reggae, pop, folk, spiritual, gospel, any of those, you have to arrange true to style. So if it's a gospel piece, it shouldn't sound like a classical. Well, of course, you have different genres of gospel, but stay true to the genre. So if it's like anything Kirk Franklin, Kurt Carr, Richard Small, Andre Crouch, then you have to stay true to the style, especially if you have solo work. And at the same time, we have to remember the time factor. Now you're given it may be more than a solo work, but you have to consider the time that you have. So, for example, if you take a piece that on the CD it is 7 minutes long, you have to arrange that because you can't be up there for 7 minutes long, just going on and on. Right? That happens in a church service, yeah, or in a religious setting, or if you will. So you have to arrange it to the time, and at the same time, you have to make sure that it draws interest. So, for example, if the sopranos sing the part 3 times before the altos, and then you have everybody singing the part 3 times, that's not going to work. So you have to create it so it suits the choir, suits the voices, and it suits the competition. All elements again are at play, so we have those elements at our disposal: pitch, dynamics, tempo, rhythm, timbre, form. You have to use them. So you have those at your fingertips. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't box yourself in, right? You have to explore. If it doesn't work, then you try something else. Don't be afraid to try things. Things that you do on the first go perhaps won't be the slated thing for the competition. So bear those in mind for your choir and just let them enjoy the music, enjoy the arrangement, convey the message. If you're singing something that's there for conviction, so you have to tell the story, tell what you're singing about. When I'm talking about sunshine and taking a walk in the park, I should be in the audience and say, okay, I want to go to the park right after this because I just feel like I want. Or something that's talking about sorrow or mournful or heartfelt. At the end of the performance, we're supposed to want by. That's how it is. That's the impact that you should have from the stage to your audience. You have to ensure that the stage is your space for your presentation. You have to showcase what you have and smile if it requires it. All the best to you.